This is Hammett.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. Please, if you like what you're listening to, go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast to support the show. $5 a month. Bonus episodes are yours. Ad-free episodes are yours. And we do have some fun news about bonus material.
Mm-hmm.
Let me first give a shout out to some of our more recent Patreon supporters. Colin, Christina A, Lucas C, Nick P, Allie S, Aaron F, Nick D, Tim H, I know there's a bunch of you, Sydney C, Matthew M, Atheist Eagle Scout, Jonathan K, Matthew C, Jody F, 37, unquote, I don't know, Jeff C, and Amanda M, thank you so much for your support.
Cool.
We really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everybody. That's amazing.
And we, last week we told you Jessica recorded an interview. Tell people about interview.
Yeah, I'll do that part. Hey, this is Jessica. Sorry, my brain is not working yet, so here we go. Hey, so I interviewed Mike Flanagan last week. It was truly a personal and professional highlight in my life, and I'm very proud of it. It was 2 hours long. It's not edited. It's just us bullshitting. At one point, I have to buy Zoom, and most of the time, he's hacking into the microphone because he had COVID, but I think we had a wonderful conversation. I've gotten really good feedback thus far. So it's been behind the paywall because we're money grubbers.
Yeah, we've only given it to Patreon supporters so far.
But we're going to drop it hopefully with this or the next day.
Yeah, by the time you hear this episode, the interview Jess did with Mike Flanagan should be up on the main audio feed. And if you go on YouTube to check out at the Friendly Atheist channel, you will also see Jess's very smiley face for 2 hours.
Was grinning like a maniac.
It's not just audio, I should say.
Yeah, it's
Most
video.
of the podcast feeds are just like a screenshot and the audio.
Yeah, no.
This interview with Mike is video of them two talking.
Yeah, and at one point you get to see the axe from Dr. Sleep at the end. You remember, The Shining?
It's been a while.
The movie, the axe in The Shining?
Sure. The one that he's chopping through the door.
Yes, there you go. I just saw Shining and Dr. Sleep double featured at the Music Box. And anyway, so the axe that Ian McGregor uses in Dr. Sleep was like hanging over his head. And as I was talking to him, like right in the corner of the screen, you can like see something. I'm like, and finally I was like, is that Overlook Hotel carpet behind you? And he was like, oh, kind of. And like twist it. And it's this gorgeous like mounted piece of the screen, like the axe they used on screen with the shining Overlook Hotel carpet background. It was very cool. And I was genuinely the geekiest I've ever been. So, and here's the thing also, if you haven't watched any of Mike Flanagan's shit, you might be a little bit lost because we did kind of talk about specific characters and who they represented. But
so go watch Midnight Mass now.
I mean, honestly, what are you? If you are not if you don't like horror, it is what it is. But it is a top drawer show.
And with that, we can move on to this week's news. Let me start off with maybe the weirdest story, like the most unexpected. I did not go into the week anticipating I would be talking about this.
Is it that he's going with King Charles III instead of something dope like King Xanadu?
Which he could do right now.
Yeah.
No, it's not about the Queen because I've given like 3 minutes of total thought to the Queen my entire life. I don't really see that changing right now.
Yes, and she had a good run.
She did.
She's an accomplished horsewoman.
No, I wanted to talk about Britney Spears. Why is Britney Spears in the news this week?
My friends came out of the woodwork for this one.
I know. So here's the backstory, because this is not that type of show. But basically, this week, Britney Spears released like a 3-minute audio-only reel on Instagram. And it was in response to some really nasty things her own family was saying about her. Mm-hmm. And don't ask me to explain every little nook and cranny of this thing, but basically she has an estranged younger son, Jaden, whom she had with her ex-husband, Kevin Federline.
We remember K-Feds.
They both did interviews this week where they basically said the conservatorship that she was under by her parents, which she said was very, it's like a prison. You can't make your own decisions. She finally got out of that last
Okay.
year. Judge said, yeah, you're out of this conservatorship.
Right.
And now you can have your own life.
And we all celebrated.
And Jaden and K-Fed are like, it was not a bad thing, and her dad's not a bad guy, and things like that.
Yeah, if you have good intentions, you should definitely be able to control your adult daughter's life.
K-Fed said that her father saved her with the conservatorship. And so, okay, with that as a backdrop, she released this audio, and it was like a 3-minute long, I don't want to say rant. She was just kind of talking and sharing her emotions.
She loves to chat. Like, she loves to just sort of chatter on Insta. It's great. It's really lovely. She seems like she's having a nice life.
I hope she is. This was a 3-minute clip. I've boiled it down to about 1 minute. It's 2 separate things she said spliced together. But stick around for this 1-minute clip, like especially toward the end, because that's the part that took me by surprise. Here's that clip.
So Jaden, as you undermine my behavior, just like my whole family always has, I hope she gets better. I will pray for her. Pray for what? I keep working so I can pay off mom's legal fees in her house. Do you guys want me to get better so I can continue to give your dad 40 grand a month? Or is the reasoning behind you guys deciding to be hateful is because it's actually over in 2 years and you don't get anything?
Whoa.
It saddens me not one of you have valued me as a person. You've witnessed me how my family has been to me, and that's all you know. Like I said, I feel you all secretly like to say something's wrong with me. Honestly, my dad needs to be in jail for the rest of his life. But like I said, God would not allow that to happen to me if a God existed. I don't believe in God anymore because of the way my children and my family have treated me. There is nothing to believe anymore. I'm an atheist, y'all.
I'm an atheist, y'all.
The next hit song right there. She actually has made very similar statements about her loss of faith over a week ago, though they didn't get much attention at the time and they didn't mention the A word.
Yeah.
So it was kind of jarring to hear, someone of that much fame just kind of come out and use that language. Caught me by surprise.
And she's Southern and that was always sort of part of her thing. Boy, oh boy, it's a very sad way to lose your faith in God, though. This is like...
Because you've been through shit in your life and you can't trust in anyone. And, this is a reason a lot of atheists will tell you that it's not because something bad happened in your life that you became an atheist, but at the very least, something bad in your life got you doubting God. And maybe that led you down a more, academic is the wrong word, but then you started thinking about it. The dominoes began falling. And here she is saying, why would God allow all this stuff to happen to me? Because my kids treat me this way. My family treats me this way. There's nothing, I'm quoting, there's nothing to believe anymore. That sucks.
Golly.
What a shitty situation to be in. Part of me thought this is playing right into Christian apologetics, apologists' hands, where they're like, why do people become atheists? It's because they don't have a relationship with their father.
Truly,
something
that
bad
was kind
happened
of
to
my
them.
concern of like when they show atheists in Christian movies and it's like, I'm so mad at God that I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you didn't quite clear the finish line there, bud.
Right. And I feel like there's going to be a bunch of sermons this weekend about yes, something bad did happen to Britney Spears. Bad things happen to good people all the time. There's a
Here's
whole...
why.
There
Jesus
are entire
loves that.
books about theodicy and this idea of why bad things happen to good people. So part of me is like, oh, played right into that. But the other part of me is like, doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? She's been through a rough time. Let this woman have the freedom to explore, take this religious journey. And just to give a quick recap here, because you're right, she grew up very Southern Baptist.
Yeah, I was going to say Baptist, but I didn't want to speak out of turn.
She was raised as a Southern Baptist. When she became a pop phenomenon, she had a brief stint with Kabbalah, explored that for a little while.
Though?
She flirted with Hinduism, or at least Hindu ideas, for a while. More recently, she claimed to be Catholic. There was an Instagram post
That's a weird one to pick up.
Was it last year or 2 years ago where she basically said, I just got back from Mass. I'm Catholic now.
So what you're saying is maybe let's not hang a lot of weight on her
Maybe.
declaration.
Actually,
but you know what?
last year,
Go on your journey, Britt.
before she got married to model Sam Ashgari, she actually posted a picture of a Catholic church on Instagram and said she wanted to get married inside of there, but she couldn't because, quote, they said I had to be Catholic. And then she added, isn't church supposed to be open to all? Which, way to open that door for us there. But also,
she found the crack
so
in the
maybe
door.
were you not a Catholic and now you're, I didn't follow it closely, but there you go. But like you said, on a religious journey, and now she's an atheist, apparently.
I do love
Let the woman explore.
Yeah, I do love the purely millennial energy of wanting to get married in a Catholic church for its aesthetics and not for any other reason.
Yeah.
Boy, that's millennial bullshit right there.
Part
huh?
of me was also wondering, like, okay, so last year when she posted that, she was either fine with being she was either a self-described Catholic or someone who was fine with being a Catholic to the point I want to get married in a Catholic church. And then this conservatorship ends and she's been through a lot of other personal things and now she's declaring she's an atheist. That's a very crammed time space right there. And it's like, wow, that's a big journey to make in a very short amount of time.
Do you think she'll dig into podcasts? What's our SEO like? If you just Google atheist podcast, do you think she'll find us in like the top page?
I will title this podcast with her name.
Britney Spears, please listen to this podcast. I bet you'd like it.
My favorite tweet, and I know this person meant well, so I'm not blaming them or calling them out on it, but they're like, you should invite her on your podcast. And I'm like, oh, buddy, I don't think you understand.
Listen. I have been trying to get this interview with Mike Flanagan for 4 years. Like, I would, if anybody knows Britney Spears, I will fucking fly to Vegas to interview her about her atheism without thinking twice.
I'm like, sure, let me DM her right now. I'm sure she'll get back to me fast.
This is like if you do comedy in Chicago and your mom's like, you should try to get on SNL.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
Oh my God, good idea. I didn't even think of that one. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Barb.
So I hope she's okay.
Just before we get off the Britney Spears topic, I just want to make sure that everybody who is not my age and grew up with Britney Spears understands the context of her life, that she became extremely famous when I was 14 years old, and I think she's only 3 years older than me. But before that, she was in the Mickey Mouse Club. This girl has been working since she could talk and dance and sing. She has not had her own life at all. And so I think she deserves as much grace as we can give her. I think show business parents can be absolute fucking nightmares. And I cannot imagine she's had an easy go of it. So I just, listen, she was a punchline for a long time. I hope we're all approaching her with more grace this time around and more understanding. I have a soft spot for Britney. I obviously know all the dance moves to Hit Me Baby One More Time. Oops, I did it again. Sorry. Oh my God, that was so embarrassing, you guys. I can't do a back handspring.
All right, I'm going to go to something lighter just because the Britney thing is heavy. So last time, an episode or two ago, we played this clip from Girl Defined, this purity culture ministry, and I believe they were talking about masturbation being evil, something like that.
And because her problem with it was the lust of it.
Yeah,
that's what
that
I
sounds
remember.
about right.
If you can masturbate without lust in your heart, then you're golden, but she can't do that.
As if that was something that happens. So Kristen Clark, the older of the two sisters, made another video this week with her sister by her side in their car because, I don't know, all right, if that's how you make videos. But okay, they made a video. Here's my thinking of what the background is here. I think she, in her marriage, she and her husband decided to watch Bridgerton one night. Were they watching Bridgerton? I'm not sure. She didn't say the name. But basically, she said we were watching this show and it had adult content. And we cannot watch adult content. And I was thinking, wait a minute. You're not a single, unmarried purity culture person. You're a married woman now.
Yeah, but seeing another lady's boobies would break their covenant, I guess.
So she's going to talk about watching some show with adult content and how the filters on her television, because she has nanny filters for
on
her grown self, did not prevent it. So she had to stop it.
Dang.
All right, so let me play this for you here.
Anyways, and so we started the show, and I can't remember, I feel like we had filters, but then as it got on, it was just like, we didn't know, I guess. Like, we hadn't done a ton of research, but we were kind of like getting into the storyline. And then it just started having like these really sensual scenes, and we were like, okay, thankfully the filters helped some, and we kind of had to skip some. But then it like kept happening more and more and more and more. And so just, I mean, one of the boundaries in our marriage is we don't watch like nudity or sex scenes, period, like together, separately. We just skipped that altogether, and it just like, it kept getting more and more and more. It's like every episode it was like multiple scenes, and we're like, okay.
That's
and
when
if
it
you've
got
ever been
good,
in that
finally.
position where you're kind of into the show, but now you're kind of mad at the show for where it's going, but you kind of want to keep watching, but you're like, is it the best? So we had to make the hard choice in that moment, like,
Such a hard choice.
and so we stopped watching it, and it was a good choice. But
Yes.
yeah, that was just like, I don't know.
So brave. Oh my God. They made such a hard choice
Like, I
to
don't
stop
want to.
watching it.
I don't want to judge another couple for what they do. If she just said, "Look, my husband and I have this belief in our marriage that we're not going to watch this stuff. I do not care. You do
Yeah,
you."
it's very silly and pointless, but fine.
Yeah. The reason she's saying this, though, is because she certainly believes everyone watching should hold the exact same views. So if a couple said, like, oh, yeah, we watch porn together, that would be blasphemous to her, even within the confines of marriage.
That's
Like, that's the thing that I can't get over. It's like, I get the purity culture thing you're preaching, and I think it's harmful. But also, I thought the whole point of what your whole ministry is once you get married, have all the sex you want.
Yeah.
Watch whatever you want
Which I think-
with your partner.
And if I am remembering Bridgerton, which they were definitely watching, I have been racking my brain for any other show that somebody could stumble into, and there's more and more sex, and the only thing I can think of is Outlander, and you don't stumble onto Outlander, you
And I'm
seek
like,
Outlander
did you
out.
and part of me was like, did you click on Bridgerton and not have any idea what was in store?
True, and I'm sure I
Really?
said this last week. This feels exactly like when, what's the superhero movie? Why am I asking you? With Ryan Reynolds.
Marvel.
With the Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool. Got it. Good job, Jessica. Deadpool. They broke the third wall. It was fourth wall. It was crazy stuff. Anyway, why would this is a stupid podcast.
No, I haven't seen Deadpool or the 77 Marvel movies that came before it. Is it
I
Marvel?
think it's
I'm not sure.
DC, but honestly, who cares? Why do you think I was bringing that up in
Last
the
time I
first place?
confused Marvel and DC, I got a lot of angry emails.
Sure, gang, you simply cannot hold us to the standards you hold yourself in regard to comic books. It's just not fair. What do you think
wish
I was going to
their
talk about? Why did
marriage-
I bring up Deadpool?
They were watching Bridgerton, almost certainly.
Okay, thank you. It was because there was a rash. Deadpool was an R-rated Marvel
Yes.
movie or superhero movie. I
Yeah.
don't care. Don't
Yeah,
correct me.
yeah.
And a bunch of people brought their like kids there because like, oh, it's a Marvel movie, and then like got mad at the movie theater. Or, like, why would you let me watch this movie with my kid?
Again, I just don't
You
get
have to have some self-responsibility.
I do not understand the idea of I'm with my husband, and if something sexy appears on screen, then what? Then I don't understand why that violates purity culture norms, because now you're married, you're gonna, if you have any feelings about it, good, your partner's next to you.
Sure, yeah. If you feel any kind of
theoretically
way,
the
yeah.
idea. I get if they're saying that to a 14-year-old who's single. I do not understand a grown
Excuse me,
woman.
as opposed to a married 14-year-old.
Actually, hey.
You know what?
Yeah. With these people, who knows?
Yeah, it is truly buck wild, and I think it's performative in a way of like holier than thou.
Yeah.
But-
we have a nanny filter. What do you use? Oh, nothing?
Nothing.
By the way, you know who else had nanny filters? Josh Duggar. Guess how that worked out? He found the loophole. I promise you,
Yikes.
if someone wants
Yeah.
to get around your
Ma'am, you're
Netflix
an adult.
nanny filter.
You set up the nanny filter. I bet. But to what end? Like, I understand feeling that like sex on screen is distasteful, which fine. I don't give a shit if that's your opinion. It's a fine opinion to have. But, and to even be like, oh, I don't like to watch this. But to have a nanny filter on your own television and then have gotten invested in a show but are like, I simply cannot deal with the long, lingering looks that have made it through the nanny filter. Like
I'm having feelings. I must turn off the show.
Listen, they do fuck a lot in Bridgerton, but there's a lot of just longing looks at each other, and maybe that's her thing. And you know what? I have BBC for you, my friend. They have plenty of longing looks to each other. Have I mentioned why I'm so tired?
Why are you so tired?
I spent 14 hours watching Bridgerton today. I spent 14 hours driving around with my manager through Wisconsin looking for horses to buy for our program. And it was a very fun day, but also it's 10 p.m. and I rode 10 horses today. And as Hammond can attest, I am covered in bruises and fucking dunzo mentally and physically. So if I don't do good,
I will carry the load.
Oh, by the
here.
way, we should shout out Brad. Hey, Brad.
Hi, Brad.
Brad is my coworker, or my boss's husband, and a listener of ours. And it all came together in a very funny way, and and it was all great.
Let's talk about this horrible decision out of Texas. This is Wednesday morning. A Texas judge, a federal judge, ruled that basically free coverage of HIV prevention drugs, like PrEP drugs, as required by the Affordable Care Act, like they are free to acquire. He said that's unconstitutional. Why? Because it violates the religious freedom of Christian-owned companies.
Do you know that HIV doesn't care about your religion? And did you know that you can spread HIV without sexual contact? And in fact, some children are born HIV positive. And so fuck those guys, I guess. Well, it's preventative, so I guess.
These people. So here's basically what this is about.
Instead of doing everything they can do to preserve human life, they're like, go fuck yourselves.
Yeah. So last year, the government began requiring insurance providers to fully cover HIV prevention drugs known as PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, whatever. These drugs like Truvada, they're nearly 99% effective at preventing the transmission of HIV, which is incredible.
Yeah, and which I would say is good for everybody. Human being in the entire world.
And before generic versions of those drugs became available, it would have cost you about $1,700 a month to get these drugs. Now there are generic versions that were, I think, closer to $30 a month, but with the new ACA provision, they are free. If you need it, you can get it. That is wonderful. And because it has a higher rate of transmission, HIV, among men who have sex with men, which is not just gay people, there's a widespread and false belief among conservative Christians that these drugs somehow contribute to homosexual behavior. Kind of like how conservative Christians say, like, well, if we make condoms free or birth control free, people will just be promiscuous.
Yeah, unlike the Christian kids who never have sex or get pregnant in their teens.
Sex has never happened at a church camp.
Ever.
And by the way, 20% of new HIV cases involve women. It's not just gay dudes.
Yeah.
Like, this is a thing. So, what happened is in March of 2020, a group of Christians represented by this anti-abortion zealot named Jonathan Mitchell, who's been trying to destroy the ACA for his career. That's his thing.
Yeah.
He filed a lawsuit to basically against the government to block the ACA provision requiring those drugs to be provided by insurers. They said it violated their religious freedom. Why? Well, one of the plaintiffs said he didn't want to pay for insurance that included this coverage because he's Christian and straight and insisted no one in his family would ever get HIV. Let me read you from the actual complaint.
I'm so sorry.
I know. Come back to this anger in a second.
But it's here now.
No. John Kelly, this is the guy. Here's what he wrote in the lawsuit. He does not want or need STD testing covered by his health insurance because he and his wife are monogamous, and he does not want or need health insurance that covers Truvada or PrEP drugs because neither he nor any member of his family members is engaged in behavior that transmits HIV.
Did you misspeak or did you say any member of his family members?
I know any of his family members is what I meant to say.
Damn it.
So
I wanted to
he's
pick on their
basically
writing.
saying, well, I'm not gay and no one in my family is gay. Therefore, we don't need this, so we shouldn't have to pay for it. We're suing the government. He also said, by the way, without evidence, that PrEP drugs as a whole, quote, encourage homosexual behavior and intravenous drug use.
What does that mean when they say encourages homosexual
Because if there's no
behavior?
consequence for having gay sex,
I forget
everyone
they're
will
all about
just get it.
consequences. If you do anything, there has to be consequences.
And
If
I
you
was-
have sex, you get pregnant,
was
you get
trying to-
HIV, that's your consequence.
This idea that like none of my family members are engaged in any
Okay.
behavior that transmits HIV, you don't know that. You think your like secretly gay son is going to tell you about this?
Also, listen, I think you've already given too much credence to his bullshit. Because I am telling you right now, I have a couple of friends. They are married, they are 2 women, and they have 2 daughters. Do you think they are going to write a letter to their senator and be like, nobody in my house has testicles? I am not going to pay for any insurance that covers testicles because nobody in my family is ever going to need that. So
It's
why the
always
fuck should I
about
pay
them.
it?
It's only what they think they're going to need
This
ever.
radical individualism that the GOP is pretending to be into is going to burn this world down, and I am not exaggerating at all. I like, maybe it was just like me and my friends in a car for 8 hours talking about everything, but truly, like, this radical sense of individualism and fuck you, I'm taking care of my own, and anything else is y'all's problem is insanity. Insanity. And it lies nowhere in the realm of truth. Knocking out HIV is good for straight people too, actually.
Getting rid of diseases that are killers is a good thing, no matter who you are. How selfish do you have to be to say, oh, this takes care of a problem in their community? It's not my community.
Honestly,
let them suffer.
They are
the Christian
so
way.
yucked out by gay people that they cannot even see past that into their like humanity and deserving to live. It's unconscionable.
So that
You're
was-
a Christian.
That was John Kelly. There was another guy, Joel Starnes. He made very similar claims. There was also a company, Braidwood Management, that said, well, the ACA, because we're a large company, the ACA requires us to get insurance for our staff. And we don't want to cover these drugs in our insurance package, just
Right.
like Hobby Lobby doesn't want to cover contraception. And the guy who runs that company, Stephen Hotsey, he said the drugs that prevent HIV transmission, they, quote, facilitate behaviors such as homosexual sodomy, prostitution, and intravenous drug use. Like, just wild, unfounded, bigoted claims.
Don't get it.
Yeah, and you
And
shouldn't,
also,
because it's
wait,
not supposed to make
Stop,
sense.
everybody. Shut up. Sex work is illegal in most of the country. I thought that if something is illegal, nobody's going to do it, the way nobody's going to get an abortion, right?
Not how anything works in their world.
What? But they said that you have to make abortion illegal
Yes.
because otherwise people will get abortions. But they also said we can't make guns illegal because only bad guys would have guns.
Yeah, laws only apply to women, not gun owners. That's the way it works. That's it.
The laws only apply to women, not gun owners, is an
Right.
inadvertently very funny thing to say.
So here's the thing. All those claims they made, total bullshit, obvious bullshit.
course.
But Mitchell, the lawyer, basically was like, who's going to take me seriously? Let me go to the dumbest fucking lawyer I know, who is like one of these conservative people. Guess what? He was right. Because the judge said the PrEP drug mandate, the mandate that says we're going to cover these drugs for anyone who needs them, it violated the company's rights under the Religious Freedom
The
Restoration Act.
company's religious rights
Yes.
were violated.
And the judge went even
Is
further.
it baptized? Did
Yes.
they dunk? Did
They
they like
do.
laminate their business license
Yep.
and dunk it?
This is U.S. District Judge Reed O'Connor in Texas. And he also said that the agencies that recommended to the government that we cover PrEP drugs, they didn't have the authority to do that. So it's also there. Now, so this judge did not say that I'm going to issue this consequences. He basically said, it's illegal, but I'm going to hold off on deciding what to do about this just yet. You can imagine they will appeal this ruling. But basically, he said the government has to show that it's unable to cover the costs for people who need the drugs, even if your employer has an exemption to the rule. But the bottom line is a religious argument to prevent people from accessing PrEP drugs, or at least created another hurdle for them to receive it, was found to have merit. And the entire thing could be declared unconstitutional. And the thing is, if this ruling holds up and PrEP drugs become harder to come by, think
People are
about the
going to die,
consequences
and they're
here.
happy about that. So they
Here's
thought
what
about
one
it.
medical expert said. The lawsuit could put other
these people.
popular preventative care services like cancer screenings at risk. He also estimated PrEP usage could be cut in half if they can't get it through the ACA. Here's what this doctor, Dr. John Carlo, a former medical director for Dallas County, said. This could cause HIV cases to tick up, especially in places like Dallas, that the federal government prioritized in order to lower virus rates. Higher HIV rates not only means more virus in the population, but also more patients with high medical bills who would eventually pass on the cost to the entire healthcare system. Oh, and by the way, it would also, he said it would be a wrong step in the country. But if you say the agencies that are recommending these drugs to the government, preventative services, if you say they're unconstitutional, they don't have the right to make these statements, that could end up blocking government-appointed experts from deciding what should be covered under insurance plans, and that could put an end to getting free vaccines, mammograms, preventative health care in a lot of other ways. The American,
you'll have to pay to do the prostate exam. Give him a 10, he'll stick his finger up your butt.
The American Medical Association.
That's so funny.
American Medical Association and dozens of other medical groups put out this statement. With an adverse ruling, patients would lose access to vital preventative healthcare services, such as screening for breast cancer, colorectal cancer, cervical cancer, heart disease, diabetes, preeclampsia, and hearing, as well as access to immunizations critical to maintaining a healthy population. All because these Christians hate gay people. That's it.
Boy, somebody in my family just got diagnosed with endometrial cancer today, and boy, most men don't necessarily have uterine lining that can get cancer, so... So sure glad that we snuck that one in under the wire before they took it away. Neat country we've built here, huh?
Mark Joseph Stern of Slate, their legal expert, basically said, if you're basically saying that you're allowing a company to say, we find a certain sin, we find something sinful, so a drug that's meant to promote sin in the way they're defining it.
It's nothing.
I know,
It's
it doesn't.
bullshit.
But if they're doing that, think about where this could lead. I'm quoting Mark here. Could an employer refuse to cover emphysema treatment because it, quote, facilitates smoking, which they deem a sin? Could an employer deny coverage of type 2 diabetes treatment because it facilitates the sin of gluttony? These hypotheticals might sound extreme, but they're no more outlandish than the PrEP example.
Listen, as soon as a single law gets passed of this doesn't affect me personally, and so it should not be a part of health insurance, as soon as one judge is like, yeah, that's a really good point. You don't have a uterus, John, so... you're right. It is illegal for you to pay that 45 cents a year to cover testing for whatever.
It's so selfish and it hurts everybody.
This is truly going to be it. If we start hacking away at healthcare and preventative healthcare, that's the fucking ball game, my dude.
Yeah, it hurts everybody. And again, where is this stemming from? Just anti-gay bigotry in the church. It never stayed within their bubble.
Visceral.
Yeah,
it's so visceral.
It's not just, they're not willing to just hurt gay people, not that that's okay. They're willing to burn the entire country down because gay people will also be injured in the process.
You know what it reminds me of? There's a book called What We Lost or something like that. I'll have to look it up. But it's about how racism has not only, in the 20th century, has not only negatively affected the victims of the racism, but everybody. And the only example I can think of is in somewhere when they started desegregating pools. There was some really fancy, famous pool that they were like, you got to desegregate this. It's the law. And they're like, fuck you, we're not gonna. So they drained the pool and it went out of use. So because they would rather nobody use it than share water with black people. So I do not doubt for a fucking second that these people will tear down the medical establishment if it harms queer people.
Yeah. It's just Christian cruelty facilitated by right-wing judges.
It is nefarious and pointed. I think that's the thing I get. They are gunning for people they deem wrong. And they're gay people and women who have had sex before.
How dare they?
I know. That's my bad. I'm sorry.
I have to go to something light. Otherwise, I will go crazy again.
Great.
Greg Locke, our friend in Tennessee, the Christian hate preacher, he held a 3-day conference over the long weekend.
Cool. Labor Day weekend.
A deliverance conference where they're getting rid of demons. So lots of very
You got to get that done on
crazy-
Labor Day because otherwise the seasons start to change and, winter's here before you know it.
He had a lot of speakers, but one of them caught my attention. His name is Daniel Adams, and I just want to play you a very short clip because he says some crazy stuff about some African demons or something. It's not a racist thing, even though it's totally a racist thing. But I want you to pay attention to what he says about pornography because I want to discuss this in just a moment.
I just want to be clear.
It's a very short clip.
You've been using this recording thing a lot for people to talk about porn.
Yeah, it's very amusing to hear their own words instead of me summarizing.
It really is quite fun.
Okay,
I love
this is Daniel Adams. Here we go.
Now, these demons in Africa will try to kill the individual coming out. It ain't like our little American fluffy puffy demons. No, man. Found out when I was there that he was with a girl who had took ownership of him in the spirit and couldn't go anywhere else. So the demon starts to come out the boy and is like, if I can't have him, because he's got a spirit spouse, right? If I can't have him, nobody will.
Oh, it's like the pools.
And the open door, you want to know where the entryway was?
Hell.
Masturbation.
Wait for it.
If you look at porn long enough or if you masturbate long enough, the thing you're imagining becomes in the flesh.
Okay. BRB, I will see you in 3 years. I have some things I need to build into fruition. I'm going to need batteries.
Let me repeat that for a second. Yeah, if you look at porn long enough or if you masturbate long enough, the thing you're imagining becomes in the flesh.
Which, if that was real, big if true.
Yeah, big if true. My favorite thing, I posted this clip on Twitter. I cannot tell you how many people responded by tagging the person they've ever fantasized about. Like, if this was real, then somebody would have been in my house by now. And I'm like, okay, this is creepy. Why are you tagging them, much less saying their name out loud?
Hey, gang, just as a woman on the internet, as a human being on the internet, you don't need to tell women when you would like to fuck them. It's just not something we need.
One person...
If you need to do what you got to do, go with God.
One person tagged a supermodel. The supermodel responded in a very nice thank you sort of emoji way. But also, like, yeah, why are you telling me who you're thinking about? This is a very... Twitter is free, my friends.
Nothing would make me feel less safe than knowing every man who wants to fuck me. That would not make me feel good moving through the world.
So, I just want to get back to the big if true statement here. What is going on in this man's life that he thinks...
it's an African demon?
Well, so I think the story that he was actually telling there is when he visited Africa, the demons there are different than American demons. And in that case, this guy had fantasized.
They had harder demons because Africa is...
If you're trying to find logic in what he was saying, there is none. I'm not sure.
Oh, I was just trying to find the racism in it.
I'm sure it's there.
Is this guy black or white?
He was white. But again, what has happened in this man's life where he's like, if you think about it, it will come true. And that's a bad thing. What the hell has he been doing? Yes, you are raising your hand.
The bad thing is he thought about kissing boys a lot, and then one day he kissed a boy.
And then a boy showed up.
I truly think that he like had a low-key fantasy about a guy like, oh, they got trapped together and ooh, smooch, smooch, smooch. and it happened, or something adjacent to it happened, and he's like, well, this is proof of magic.
Friend of the show, I'm sure,
Even though men
Patton
are
Oswalt,
Oswalt and I are close personal friends.
responded to this clip by saying, if this were true, I would have unleashed a legion of demonic archdukes 10 minutes after seeing Trading Places.
I haven't seen Trading Places in a long time, so I don't get that, and you don't get it either. So
don't.
why did we read it out loud?
Because it was Patton. I'm very proud of that.
I mean, Patton is
by the way, there was
best.
another person who also spoke at the very same conference, and I don't have the clip here,
Same
but he
conference
said,
as this
Greg
guy.
Locke
Okay.
conference, and he said that the demons inside you are very hungry for ungodly things, and then he used the demons of pornography as an example, and he said they demand to be fed every single 3 weeks.
Excuse me, sir?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
He was so specific with that time period.
Is he just telling us his wank-off schedule?
I think so, but also part of me
3
was like,
weeks
really?
seems
3
really
weeks?
long.
Like the Seinfeld episode where
Yeah,
they all
the
held
bet.
off. It didn't last 3 weeks, I don't think.
I mean, listen, I could last longer than them, but 3 weeks? Obviously I couldn't have, but like,
I
wasn't
thought,
pleasant.
before I heard these clips, the worst Christian take on self-pleasure that I think I ever heard came from abusive pastor Mark Driscoll, who once said, you shouldn't masturbate because it's a form of homosexuality because, quote, it is a sexual act that does not involve a woman.
it's
Which, by the
hard
way,
to fault
just-
his logic.
Which also ignores the fact that women do it too, which he doesn't acknowledge as a thing.
Oh, no, the same way that when they talk about gay people, they talk about gay men, not lesbians. They don't care about lesbians. Lesbians are pretty fucking chill in their view. They're like, oh, you wear flannel? I wear flannel. Neat. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Every 3 weeks, this gentleman has to jerk it. And now we all know
of the
that.
demons. They're
Because of
hungry.
the demons. They take exactly 3 weeks.
Exactly. On
Do
schedule.
you think he's talking about like he jerks it every 3 weeks, or he has to have sex every 3 weeks?
Jerks it.
Jerks it?
Yeah. Huh. Has to be.
It must be.
Let's talk about Pope Francis. It's
Will you
segue.
please throw that thing for Dottie first?
I can't see anything.
God damn it.
So Pope Francis did an It's a
He
good
did just
segue.
pet her twice. It was really exciting for all of us.
This week, apparently Pope Francis did an interview with CNN Portugal, but it was a little while ago, but it only made news now. But basically he said, I'm going to just read from the beginning of this piece. In an exclusive, wide-ranging interview in Rome last month, Pope Francis said the church had zero tolerance for abuse and said that a priest cannot remain a priest if he is an abuser.
And this is, first of all, new policy, which is just really quick, I meant, how old is the Catholic Church?
Older than Queen
1,500
Elizabeth.
years old?
Yes.
And in the year of our Lord 2022, they're like, hey guys, I don't think our church leaders should be molesting children. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Like, I know this is crazy. You guys are going to think I'm crazy. Oh my God, this is so, I just thought of this last night, and I know you guys are going to think it's nuts, but what if we fired the... Wait, hold on, I have to tell a joke.
Yes.
My dad told me, and he made me promise to tell it.
Oh, okay.
We were talking about something else, about somebody being abused, and he's like, sexual abuse, not just for the Catholic Church anymore.
Hey.
And then he looked at me dead in the eyes and he's like, you should use that on your podcast. So these are the
Nice.
notes I'm getting. This
I
is where
like
my
it.
comedy comes
There
from, you know?
go. I will give credit to CNN where they included this paragraph in the report. In their article about this, multiple reports detailing decades of sexual abuse, systemic failures, and cover-ups across multiple countries have been released since Francis became the leader of the world's 1.2 billion Catholics in 2013.
Billion.
Yeah.
Jeez
While he was
Louise.
criticized for some of his actions, such as when he defended a Chilean bishop accused of covering up a sex scandal in 2018,
Oh, I
a
remember that.
decision he later described as a grave error, he has since taken a firm stance on the issues and introduced some reforms.
You guys,
Well, about that.
Wait, this is news that I know I've just done this bit, but I just want to be very clear that this is news that the Pope has finally said, hey, if somebody's is molesting children, they should not be a priest. It is 2022, Hammond.
Let's talk about where Pope Francis...
Spotlight, the movie has been out for 10 years.
Let me tell you about his zero tolerance policy here.
I would love to hear about that.
Okay, so first of all, we talked for a while in 2019, Cardinal George Pell was sentenced to 6 years in prison for child sex abuse. In 2020, that conviction was controversially overturned because the High Court of Australia said the jury didn't really give his testimony. They didn't express enough doubt about his defense. Whatever. It was controversial. What was Pope Francis's reaction to all that? He said, well, unjust sentences are wrong. And he compared Pell's situation to how Jesus was persecuted despite being innocent. That's one thing.
Okay.
How about in the U.S.? There have been laws to make priests mandatory reporters. If you find out someone's an abuser, you are legally obligated to tell the cops.
Honestly,
what has the church's position been on that?
This has been, to me, in my opinion, if you are a Catholic, to me, this would be, if I was still a believer, would be my breaking point. To me, this is so beyond irresponsible and dangerous. It's unacceptable, and it's fucked that we're still doing this.
Yeah, if someone confesses in a confessional booth, I have abused a child, the priest is not legally obligated to do anything with that information.
Currently abusing a child.
Yes.
Or plan to murder a person.
The Catholic Church has opposed laws saying you got to report this. Now, Pope Francis's defense here is saying, well, we have issued new rules requiring priests to report those abuse allegations to church authorities. But even those rules have giant loopholes, because what if the bishop you tell it to doesn't want to pursue it or doesn't think like
they just don't want any consequences outside their own. They think they live in their own special world that's above the rest of us, and so they can fuck as many children as they want to, and they're good because they wear the fancy robes on Sundays.
And in the same interview, Pope Francis said, they asked him, well, maybe the priestly requirement that they all be celibate, maybe that's part of the problem because they need an outlet and they're going after these kids.
First of all, rape and sexual abuse is about power. It's not about sex.
Yes. And you're right about that.
But
here's
also,
what Pope Francis
let these
said.
people have sex. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Could it be that celibacy is to blame? It's not about celibacy. And again, you're right. It's about power and abuse and all and that sort of thing. It's not just the celibacy requirement, but you have to think if celibacy wasn't a rule, at least they would stop hurting some of these kids, because not everyone is doing it just because they have some.
Counterpoint: everybody's doing it because they have some kind of I don't know. No matter how no matter how horny I've ever been, at no point was I like, well, this kid is in my care.
I feel like the problem with what he's saying there is he's trying to write off the predators as bad apples, just the same way Republicans write off cops as bad apples. And it's well, what about the whole system that is creating them? So if you find a bad
apple, then what do you do? I think that is the question nobody's asking. You're right. It's a few bad apples. Okay, then when you find that bad apple, if you're a cop or you're a priest, what is your next step? Yeah, sure, fine. Call it a few apples. 10%. Few bad apples. Okay, then find them and get them out of your program.
And why are they all in your program? What are you doing that creates a system where all these bad people with access to kids somehow get into your system?
And how bad is your management that all this shit can be going on? I mean, God, it's with their, right? They must. I just don't know. I just don't know how high it goes. Not to sound like a crazy conspiracy person, but just who does this get passed up to that something gets done?
Yeah, if the Pope is saying we have zero tolerance for this stuff, and we've seen what he does, what the Catholic Church does, then where else is there to go?
I have a huge problem with the Catholic Church in this regard now, because at this point, they used to be, we follow the Pope, and now we have this new, and big quotes, liberal Pope, and now they're like, yeah, he said this, but it doesn't quite mean this, right? Yeah. They've done it a couple times. He's like, hey, we should be nicer to gay people. And evangelicals are like, no, he was confused. He meant happy people. It was a mistranslation from the original Latin.
Let me jump to this story because I saw liberals passing this one around.
Oh, boy.
Here's the backstory. In South Carolina, very red state, they are trying to pass an extreme abortion ban. The South Carolina House, passed a version of the bill with exceptions for rape and incest victims and the life of the mother, which, okay, fine, but also, no, just get rid of this bill. It's a horrible
So you
bill.
acknowledge that sometimes an abortion is medically necessary, and
Sometimes.
maybe that people's mental
Like,
health and financial
it's an
health is
extreme
important.
abortion ban with some sensible exceptions, but also the fact that you're writing any sort of anti-abortion bill is cruel and horrific. So now this bill with the exceptions gets sent to the state Senate. What happens in the state Senate? They remove the exceptions for rape and incest.
That's them getting away with it.
Yeah, and now they're trying to pass the version of the bill that is just a straight up abortion ban except to save the life of the mother, but in every
Cool
other
and neat.
situation.
Cool and neat. I'm doing fine.
So, anyway, they removed these things. And the three
Just
women...
say you don't give a shit about women. Just
That's-
put us in the red robes.
None of this is the story yet. There are three women, Republican women in the state Senate, and all three of them are like, no, keep the exceptions for rape and incest in the bill. Which,
so
again,
brave.
this is such a low-hanging fruit that, of course, they should do
Fuck
this.
these bitches.
But one of these GOP state senators, her name is Katrina Shealy, she gave a speech basically calling out the Republicans for removing these exceptions. It was a long speech. I'm going to play you about a minute of
said
her
she's a
speech.
Republican? Oh,
She
put
is
my
a
headphones back
Republican.
on.
This is important. You're going to want to know that when you hear what she has to say, because she's trying to call out the cruelty of her Republican colleagues. So let me play this for you here in just a second. And again, 4-minute clip. I'm boiling it down to something shorter.
Okay.
Yes, I'm pro-life. I'm also pro-life of the mother, the life she has with her children who are already born. I care about the children who are forced into adulthood that was made up by a legislature full of men so they can take a victory lap and feel good about it. You want children raising children who will most likely suffer domestic violence and live in poverty. But you don't care because you've done your job, and you will forget about them once they are born. You will fight my legislation on foster homes and adoption. You will not support legislation to stop sex trafficking and pornography. You will not support my legislation for free meals for all children in schools. You're not going to help me on that. If you want to believe that God is wanting you to push a bill through with no exception that kills mothers and ruins the lives of children, lets mothers bring home babies to bury them, then I think you're miscommunicating with God. Or maybe you're just not communicating with him at all. But before I sit down, I have one thing to say to you. Think about your wives. Think about your daughters, your granddaughters, your nieces, and all those cute little girls' faces in your church. Then think about the decisions you want to make for them, even though you don't know what their situations are.
So a large part of what she just said there,
Jesus Christ.
I mean, she said a lot there. Let me quote the part that really got everyone's attention.
An economy of language that she used.
I think you're miscommunicating with God, or maybe you're just not communicating with him at all. Like, damn, mic drop moment there.
That is truly, I feel like a Christian telling somebody that they're being a bullshit Christian, it has to be a big deal, right?
Right?
Don't you think? I don't know.
Not only did that start
It's like
making
me
the
accusing
rounds
you of not believing
online,
in evolution.
Jamie Harrison, the head of the Democratic National Committee, who's from South Carolina, ran for Senate, U.S. Senate a couple years ago, wrote, "Watch this. I want to thank South Carolina Senator Shealy. I don't always agree with her on some issues, but she is a thoughtful member, and her remarks today were extremely powerful. She highlighted the extremes some Republicans are taking to control women in this country. This must end now." So she's getting praise even from liberals for what she just said there.
Especially from liberals, I'd have
Yeah.
to assume.
Yes.
Solely from liberals, I'd have to assume.
Here's what I did not see in the coverage of her remarkable thing that she said there. You know what she wants? She supported it last year. She co-sponsored a bill to ban abortions as soon as a fetal heartbeat is detected, which happens very early and has no biological, anything.
Significance.
Nope.
A lot of people's hearts beat when they're not alive.
That bill was signed into law last year. She's fine with that. She's fine
not a
with
hero.
no exceptions for that. She also, so she has no problem making horrific decisions on other women's behalf, regardless of the reason they got pregnant.
You look at the cute faces of the girls in your church, ma'am.
Yeah, and
But
also,
you know what?
even
I'm sorry,
with
I shouldn't come for her.
her version of it, where she's like, no, we should have exemptions for rape or incest, they only applied to up to some point, like some arbitrary set of weeks, after which
Then
she
you
didn't
can
care
have
anymore
your,
to. Then you can't have an abortion
Yeah,
after that.
you can finally give birth to your father's daughter,
Yeah.
just like you've always dreamed of.
So, and again, if you're to the Democrats I saw who are praising her, she wants exceptions for rape and incest in a bill that would still prohibit virtually all abortions in the state.
Yeah.
Because rape and incest are very minuscule portion of why people get abortions. Like, don't hail her as a hero. She is as much of a moral monster as the other Republican colleagues.
We can do credit where credit's due, but we won't extrapolate too far out from that. But
Yeah.
you know what? Fucking,
If
there's the bar. We found the bar.
If she really wanted to prevent these cruel bills from passing, she should start telling citizens to vote for Democrats in the
She
future.
should change that R to a D,
Yeah,
and
but
then we
she'll
can do
she'll
some shit.
never do that because women's lives
course.
don't matter that much.
Yeah, they marry.
to her.
They matter. Sometimes.
All right, got to go to a lighthearted story to cleanse the palate here.
okay.
Let's talk about, I say lighthearted, nothing's lighthearted, but this is amusing to me. There's a school in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Northwood Temple Academy, private Christian school.
Every other week we have a Fayetteville story
Yeah,
from
that
just
sounds about
some
right.
Fayetteville across the country.
If your town is named Fayetteville, welcome to our show.
Look out.
Yeah. So here's what happened. It's a private Christian school, and last week they had some special session where like the kids met to have an assembly, but it was like a church service, spiritual emphasis week. And that's what they had last week. Few short chapel services as an assembly at the beginning of the school day.
This is not a public school, right?
It's not a public school.
Okay, so we're in
And the thing
clear.
is, during that week, I guess a few students announced that they wanted to get baptized. And so the school was going to baptize them during the assemblies.
Oh, God, I saw the headlines about
fine.
this.
A couple students wanted to get baptized, whatever. Well, according to the headlines that you probably saw, 100 kids got baptized.
Like, obviously, I don't believe baptism means anything, but if you have any kind of spirituality, that is a huge violation of somebody to do to your kid without your consent.
Right. So they didn't tell parents they were going to baptize their kids.
That's not
All
good.
these kids got baptized. One mother told the Fayetteville Observer, "My daughter calls me from the school and says, 'Mama, can you bring me some dry clothes? I got baptized today.' I said, 'What?' Because again, even if you believe in this stuff, yeah, your parents want
It's
to be there.
personal.
It's very personal. So all these kids get baptized. Parents don't know anything about it. They wanted to be there for the big
Yeah.
moment. None of them knew it was happening. So how did the school respond? Renee McLam, who's the head of the school, basically
They blow-dried
sent...
them and was like,
I
"Oh,
know.
undone."
They sent parents an email basically kind of apologizing, but not really.
Did they say the words, "We're sorry"?
No.
Okay, then not apology.
Maybe they did. I don't think they did. Here's what she said. Truly, the Lord began to move this morning, and we were so excited about what the Lord was doing. Several students had given their lives to the Lord during Spiritual Emphasis Week, and they were scheduled to be baptized this morning, but the Spirit of the Lord moved, and the invitation to accept the Lord and be baptized was given, and the students just began to respond to the presence of the Lord, which is a long way of saying peer pressure works.
I was gonna say I also really pretended to like Good Charlotte for a long time, so my friends would like me more. But I am not a Good Charlotte fan today, and I was not then.
It sounds like what happened is a few kids got baptized. Other kids are like, well, that looks like they're all getting a lot of praise. Let me join in the fun. And they all got baptized. And then when the few kids started doing it, everyone else joined in. Next thing you know, there's this uncontrolled 100-student baptism.
But
and
so this
no
is
parents
at a
were
Christian
told.
school.
Yeah.
So the baptism was inevitable. Is that the
It could have
idea
been.
that like do they have is it like instead of graduation you get baptism or
Not how
whatever?
it works. Not surprised if that's how it works, but that's not how it works. But
So you
the
don't know. You
parents-
just think I'm wrong.
You are wrong. The parents definitely did want to be there for it.
Yeah, of
and
course.
my favorite complaint, I'm reading this from the article. One parent was angry and said no apology would be accepted. and another parent was upset because they felt it undid the baptism that had already taken place at their church.
I mean, truly.
And I spent way too much time looking at that sentence and trying to parse that one. Because, like, wait a minute. So your kid got baptized at church. Now you got a second baptism at school. And you think the second baptism undid the first baptism. That makes as much sense as your hairdryer joke.
Which was a very good and funny joke.
But two baptisms don't cancel each other out.
That's... I would think they stack. You have to think they stack,
You're doubly
right?
baptized.
No,
you are
okay.
not unbaptized.
Now get thee to a Mormon church, get baptized there. Listen, you can get baptized
then
all over
maybe
the
they
place.
can't-
You can
no.
do an American tour of baptism. That's my next book, my
Oh,
only
God.
first book. I'm going to go around the country and get baptized everywhere I can.
And then you will either be super spiritual or stoned for being a heretic.
I'm really going to have to take care of my hair because that much chlorine is
I
going to be
think
tough
that
on it.
the big takeaway here is like I kind of get that the school didn't realize this was going to happen, and once it started happening, what did you want the school to do? Did they like, oh no, you can't get baptized right now?
I guess I'm confused. Like, I get how things like that can get carried, but didn't an adult be like, hey, this is, I mean, for them, a significant thing?
They didn't anticipate this would happen, which is the thing I was shocked by. Like, I think the big takeaway is
Kids
they
will
gave
do
absolutely
everything.
no thought to what might be best for the parents because they were just blinded by faith.
You telling me a Christian institution did not think about its congregants? That's wild.
Yeah.
And certainly the first
And they
time it's
didn't
happened.
anticipate the peer pressure would happen. I was a little surprised that that was the case. But
Yeah, gang. Oof.
one more maybe story here. Last one, I'll stop then.
Did you see me
This
look
one
at my
pissed
watch?
me off and I had to do it. The Archdiocese of St. Louis sent a message to all of the Catholic schools it oversees and basically said, hey, you're going to have to start charging kids for food in our schools because even though religious private schools are allowed to participate in the National School Lunch Program where kids can get food for free.
Because all kids deserve to eat?
Because kids deserve to eat. The Archdiocese basically said, you need to stop and you need to charge them for food and we're not going to participate in the program. Why? Because if we keep taking the government option here, we might have to follow their rules prohibiting anti-LGBTQ discrimination.
But wait, why can't they afford? How bad are their finances? That suddenly have to start
They
charging.
do not care about finances. They're just like, we're not going to take free food because we like hating gay people more than we like feeding the kids who might not have the money to pay
But
for
I'm
it
just
themselves.
wondering, okay, you're a Catholic institution. People are paying tuition. Sounds like some of that income
Not
should be
everyone.
diverted into...
Not everyone is paying tuition. I don't know what the
fair
finances are.
enough.
It's not about the
It
money
doesn't
for
matter.
them.
I'm mad.
It's okay, yeah. So, again, the mission of the church then is to apparently make sure gay kids know homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered. That's in the catechism.
Yeah, you gotta
trans
know that.
identities are apparently there to annihilate the concept of nature, according to the Pope.
Really?
Yep. And by the way, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch newspaper noted that this new rule, which, by the way, literally no one is saying the government would cut off free food for
They're
a religious
just
school.
getting ahead of it.
They're not going to say, oh, you can only get free food if you agree to our non-discrimination clauses, even if you're a religious school. No one is saying that's what the
actually a
government's
good
going to do.
point.
But the Post-Dispatch noted that the new rule that this archdiocese is instituting, quote, could potentially leave thousands of Catholic school children without access to the free meals they have had in previous years.
Cool.
All because
Well, why
they
doesn't the
hate
Pope
gay
sell one of his gold thrones and pay for some fucking school lunches then? The Catholic...
I mean, they're telling you their
Jesus
priorities right
Christ.
there. That they care less about helping all kids
You're
and
not gonna-
more about causing pain to certain other kids.
It truly, like, they talk about, we're trying to protect our kids. You're not. You're trying to make sure that quote unquote different kids do not get the same privileges because they were born wrong or whatever. Golly, fuck these guys.
And on that happy note,
Yeah.
I think I'm done.
Okay, I have some notes that I took.
Oh,
It's
what are we
gonna be
doing
a
in the
real
bonus
good
episode?
bonus episode. I told Hammett when truly Hammett walked in a half hour after I did. I had have you ever taken a shower when you can actually see the dirt leave your body?
I don't ride horses.
Yeah, well, I mean, people go outside for non-horse. It doesn't
No,
matter.
they don't.
You're confused. Okay.
What are we talking about in the bonus?
In the bonus episode, how Gamergate, quote unquote, started it all. Podcast
no.
I listened to is kind of an
no.
interesting concept. I want to talk about it. Two shows. One called Shining Veil, starring Parvesh Cheena, friend of the podcast. Hey, Parvesh, I really love your show. You were extremely funny on it. It's a Courtney Cox thing about they move in a haunted house. It's hysterical.
Okay.
It's weird in a fun way. And then The Resort, which is also incredible. It has Chidi from The Good Place. Okay. I want to talk to you about my discovery of how terrible horse YouTube is.
Okay.
And how I did not fall off a horse today. You've heard this story already. I want the listeners to hear how I did not fall off a horse today.
Excellent. And where can we find you?
You can always find me on Twitter at Jess Blumke, JessBlumke. Hemmett can be found at
Hemmett Meta on Twitter. You can also go to patreon.com/friendly atheist podcast to support this show. Mm-hmm. And I don't know.
Yeah, email. Oh, you know what? I'll do a thing. You can always email us at friendlyatheistpodcast at gmail.com.
And while Jess is looking for a review, just a reminder that if you are a Patreon donor, bonus episodes are yours, ad-free episodes are yours. We've been really lucky to have people.
Okay, the only new
I forgot
one,
what I was saying with that.
It doesn't matter.
It's late.
Okay, first of all, I love this person because their username is Bofadies. It's like Bofadies nuts.
Yes,
it's a
I
very
figured.
funny joke. Excellent. 5 stars. Justin Hammond are great. Yay, friendly atheist. Listen, this is all we're
take it.
asking for. Economy of language.
There you go.
Thank you, Bofadies. Congratulations on having a stunning screen name.
All right, we'll see you in the bonus.
Bye.